Hey there. So, I want you to picture something for a moment. You're standing on a beach in Peru, staring at the vast, empty expanse of the Pacific Ocean. And you have a theory, a wild, beautiful, and completely unproven idea, that ancient people sailed across this very ocean on nothing but rafts made of balsa wood. Everyone you tell this to, the experts, the scholars, they all say you're wrong. They say it's impossible, that the rafts would sink, that the journey is too far, that the people you're talking about couldn't have done it. What do? Do you let the world tell you it's impossible? Or do you build the raft yourself and set sail? Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Echoes of the Ancients. Today, we're leaving the dusty archives and stepping onto the deck of one of the most audacious experiments in history. This is Episode 7, The Voyage of the Kon-Tiki, Proving the Impossible. Our story begins not with a shipwright, but with a scientist and adventurer named Thor Heyerdahl. In the 1930s, while living in the Marquesas Islands in the Pacific, he became fascinated by the local legends. The islanders spoke of a great ancestor, a sun god named Tiki, who had come from a distant land to the east. Heyerdahl looked at the wind patterns, the ocean currents, and the cultural similarities between Polynesia and ancient South America. He started to form a radical hypothesis. What if the first settlers of Polynesia didn't come from Asia, as most academics believed, but from the Americas? Specifically, from pre-Inca civilizations in Peru. The experts scoffed. They said the ancient Peruvians only had simple rafts, incapable of an ocean crossing of over 4,000 miles. The prevailing winds and currents flowed east to west, they argued, making a journey from Asia logical, but a journey from South America a suicidal fight against nature. Heyerdahl realized he couldn't win the argument with books and papers. He had to prove it was physically possible. He decided to build a raft using only the materials and techniques available to those pre-Columbian people, and then he would let the Humboldt current take him exactly where it flowed, west, into the heart of the Pacific. So, in 1947, with a crew of 5 fellow Scandinavians and a parrot named Larita, he went to the Peruvian coast. They cut down 9 giant balsa logs in the Ecuadorian jungle. Balsa wood, which is famously buoyant, but which critics said would become waterlogged and sink after a few weeks. They lashed the logs together with hemp ropes, just as the old drawings showed. They built a small, open hut for shelter, erected a square sail with the painted face of the sun god Kon-Tiki, and loaded the raft with provisions like sweet potatoes, coconuts, and water stored in bamboo tubes. No metal, no engine, no radio beyond a basic one for emergencies. They were committing themselves, utterly, to the logic of the ancient world. On April 28, 1947, the Kon-Tiki was towed out of the harbor of Callao, Peru. The moment they cut the tow line, the adventure truly began. And almost immediately, the ocean began its lessons. The raft, with no keel or deep hull, didn't slice through the waves like a modern ship. It rode over them. It was a living, breathing entity. Water constantly sloshed between the logs. For the first few days, they were soaked, seasick, and trying to learn how to steer this thing with a system of centerboards they could raise and lower. But then, something remarkable happened. They adapted. They learned that the raft, built to ancient specifications, was perfectly suited to the ocean. The balsa logs absorbed just enough water to form a protective skin that kept the inner wood dry and buoyant. The flexible hemp ropes allowed the raft to sway and give with the swells, making it incredibly stable. A rigid, modern hull would have been battered apart, but the Kon-Tiki simply rose and fell, a cork on the immense sea. The voyage became a strange, beautiful routine, a mix of primal survival and profound wonder. Flying fish would land on deck at night, becoming their breakfast. They were accompanied by curious sharks, which they could literally grab by the tail and pull onto the raft. They watched the stars wheel overhead, navigated by the sun and the waves, and felt a connection to the past that was almost palpable. They weren't just testing a theory, they were living it. For 101 days, they were citizens of the Pacific at the mercy of and in harmony with its rhythms. The raft proved to be more seaworthy than any of the experts could have imagined. And then, on August 7, 1947, after drifting over 4,300 miles, they saw it, land. The jagged outline of an atoll in the Tuamotu Islands. The current and wind had carried them, just as Heyerdahl predicted, right into the heart of Polynesia. They couldn't steer the raft onto a safe beach. It was at the mercy of the surf. In a final, crashing crescendo, the Kon-Tiki was thrown onto the razor-sharp coral reef of Raroya Atoll. The raft was shattered, but the 6 men and the parrot waded ashore, exhausted, elated, and utterly triumphant. They had done it. They had proven that a pre-Columbian raft could make the journey. The impossible was, in fact, possible. Now, here's where I want to pause and reflect. As an engineer, what fascinates me about this story isn't just the adventure, it's the methodology. Heyerdahl didn't just have a hunch, he built a prototype. He conducted a field test under real-world conditions. He used the tools of the era he was studying to validate his hypothesis. Modern archaeology and genetics have since largely supported the Asian origin of Polynesian settlement, and that's important. Science corrects itself. But Heyerdahl's achievement stands apart from the final answer to his initial question. He proved something even more fundamental, that human ingenuity, coupled with a deep observation of nature, can achieve feats that look like madness from the shore. The Kon-Tiki wasn't just a raft, it was a challenge to dogma. It was a physical, tangible question mark thrown at the feet of established theory. Sometimes, in my work in tech and entrepreneurship, I hit a wall of impossible. A line of code that can't be optimized, a business model that won't work. And I think of Thor Heyerdahl, ankle deep in Pacific water, reading the same stars the ancients did. He reminds me that the most powerful way to challenge an assumption is to build a working model. Don't just argue. Demonstrate. Create your own Kon-Tiki, whatever that may be, a minimum viable product, a proof of concept, a first draft. Let the currents of the real world test it. You might not end up where you precisely thought, but you will have proven the journey is possible, and you will have learned truths no textbook could ever teach you. The voyage of the Kon-Tiki echoes because it's a story about faith in an idea and the courage to bet your life on it. It's about trusting the wisdom embedded in ancient designs and understanding that sometimes the simplest solution, a raft of logs and rope, is the one that can cross an ocean. Thanks for sailing with me on this story today. If these echoes of the ancients resonate with you, please help the podcast reach more ears by sharing it with a friend or subscribing wherever you listen. For more from me, Ibnul J. Farabi, and the whole team, visit our home port at Light Not Studios. https://www.lightnotstudios.com. Until next time, remember, some of history's greatest truths were first called impossible daydreams. All they needed was someone willing to get their feet wet.